Financial decisions, investment decisions, and another one. I'm not sure. That's it.
Anybody else would like to add something? Okay, the four important decisions. Can anybody name them? I told about some important decisions.
Uh, yes, that would be like capital budgeting or investment decision, and financing decision or profit allocation or dividend decision. And these three would come under long term financial decisions. Whereas working capital or liquidity decision, this would come under short term financial decisions.
Good. So these decisions, they are very important. You people have to remember them. As I told, any of the activities in finance, they would be coming under either of these functions or decisions, we can say. So these are the important finance functions: investment decision or capital budgeting, financing decision or capital structure, dividend decision, and then short-term decision would be the liquidity decision or working capital management. So one function is related to another function, like if you need profits, you have to make some investment somewhere, and to make investment you need funds. So for that you raise capital, and that is capital structure or financing decision. And whatever you investments you are making, you arrive or derive at profits. So these profits have to be given back to the shareholders, so that is dividend decision. Or you can retain them and again put them into investment. And to carry out your regular day to day activities, you need some working capital in hand. And how much working capital has to be kept in your hand, how much of cash you should have, how much of inventory you have to maintain in your godowns, how much of credit period you can give to your customers for credit sales. All the decisions would be coming under working capital management or liquidity decision. So one function is related to another function, they are interrelated to each other. So just remember it as a interconnected functions, and the flow, if you remember, that would be easy for you to remember these four important decisions. Okay, so I'll be starting the class. So yesterday we have done till here. So next is the goals of finance function. That is, what should be the ultimate aim of finance function. There are two theories, or you can say two schools of thought: profit maximization and shareholders' wealth maximization. Whether the finance function should aim for profit maximization or should it aim for shareholders' wealth maximization. I'll tell you what is profit maximization, and I'll tell you what is shareholders' wealth maximization. Give me your views. What the company, what should the company aim for? So, profit maximization, as the name itself suggests, to increase the profits as much as possible. That is the goal. Shareholders' wealth maximization is increasing the value for the shareholders. How you will increase the value for the shareholders? Increasing their share price. We know public limited companies, those are listed, will be trading in the stock exchanges. So the increase in the price of the shares will increase the wealth of the shareholders. the share price, what we assume is share price is directly related to the value of the firm. So if the share price is increasing, the value of assets is increasing, the value of firm is also increasing, and that would increase the wealth of the shareholders. So should the finance function aim for profit maximization, or should the firm aim for shareholders wealth maximization? That you have to tell me. Somebody has raised hand.
Yeah, ma'am. It's like, see, when the company aims for profit maximization, doesn't affect the shareholders' wealth maximization as well. Because when the company increases profits, that time people tend to buy more shares, by which the value increases. There,
Right.
yeah. From there,
So you want to say that both are one and the same?
not one at the same, but they're related.
Of course, because profits is profit is one of the major factor that will decide the wealth of the shareholders.
But the company should aim for profit maximization, because that increases the value of the company, as you said, and also the value of the company affects the share price.
Okay. Anybody else who thinks that profit and wealth, they both are not same, they are different? Or anybody would like to
Hello.
add something?
Ma'am, this is Akshat, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe they are not same, but they are interrelated, as Jay said, where it will show if profit is maximized, the company.
One second.
Yes, sir.
People who are talking, if you can switch on your camera, that would be more better. Your friends also can see who is speaking, if you're comfortable.
Just a second, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, from next time onwards, at least you can be prepared.
Yes, ma'am. I'll switch on next time, ma'am, because
Yeah, fine.
I'm not in a good
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I
Yeah.
understand.
Okay, so as we see, but it could be vice versa also, where shareholder wealth maximization, if you maximize that, ma'am, it's quite obvious. We are maximizing that in the sense the company's market value and the share of the company in the industry will increase. So at the end, the profit maximization is indirectly also proportional to that, because if the market value of the whole company increases, then promoters stakes also have an increase in their stake, and thus the profits of the margin of their profits will also increase they won't increase, but the profits will be more at that time. So vice versa, it's interrelated to each other, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So, one more question I have. Yes, Shruti, you were about to say something? Okay. So, tell me, apart from profits, there are any other factors that increase the wealth of the shareholders? So, wealth here means, let us assume I'm talking about the market value of the share or market price of the share. Apart from profits, is there any other factor that affects the market price of a share? Only profits? Only people
The
look into.
situation of the industry.
Okay, the industry overview. Okay. Specifically about the company I'm talking,
Dividend,
right? The dividends they pay. What
That's,
else? Debt?
yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Goodwill?
Right. Goodwill. What do you mean by goodwill here?
The reputation the company has in the market.
Yes, yes. That matters a lot. If a company is having a goodwill, very high goodwill, then even if in 1 year the profits are not good, temporarily there may be a very little reduction in the price, but later on it will come back to its normal price, even if the profits are not at like they are not as they were in the past because of the goodwill. And if a company has got a bad reputation for, let us assume it has attracted some penalties or fines from SEBI or company law board or from the government because it is not following some of the regulations, or there is some problem in the trade union of the company, or they are following unethical methods in doing business, so obviously the goodwill will come down, and that will also affect the share price, right? So now we will look into this. Anybody else would like to say anything more on this?
Ma'am, production value.
Production
Production value.
value. Production value in the sense the value or the cost, right? The cost will obviously affect, and that will lead to what is the I mean from profits again, it will be to the wealth. So of course cost of production is one of the important factors in deciding the profits. So let us see first profit maximization. So, what are the favorable arguments are profits are the indicators, or profit is the indicator of the operational efficiency of the firm. That is, if a firm is having high profits, it means obviously it is doing good in its business. When you compare two firms, the one with high profits is obviously considered as more efficient, more profitable, more efficient, and it is doing a good business as compared to the one with the lesser profits, right? So, profits are a clear indication that the firm is doing good. The work, whatever work it is doing, is good. That is one thing. Then when a firm is having profit maximization as its goal, it is going to select all those projects only that are profitable. Now you can ask, any firm will select projects that are profitable only, why will they select unprofitable projects? So here what comes is sometimes when you have this insiders being favorable to some of their friends or relatives, or who have brought in projects that are not viable. Are you getting my point? Let us assume I am the director of a company, and one of my friends has brought in a project that is not so good, but since it's my friend, and here the company is I am one of the directors, but I am not, what do you say, even if the company is into profits or losses, that doesn't affect me because I have my salary paid on time. So to help my friend, I am giving the project even though the project is not much viable. Okay. So here the guiding factors will be different for selection of a project. When you are having profit maximization only as a goal, then obviously you are going to select all those projects only that are profitable, but you'll not look into other factors. Then when you are aiming for profits, like somebody has said, reduction in the cost, so you will see that you are keeping the cost of production or your cost as minimum as possible. And there are two ways to increase your profits. One is reduction in cost, and increase in the another is increase in the revenue. That is, selling price can be increased or cost can be reduced. Now, how can you reduce the cost? By efficient allocation of resources. Without wasting any of the resources, you are trying to use the resources to the maximum possible. Best usage you are doing. You're having material, you have good value, good quality material, and without any wastage in the material, you are planning your production. Space also you are using to the maximum. The labor or workers, whatever you're having skilled labor, and you're utilizing their skills to the maximum. So efficient allocation of resources will ensure that, that is, whatever you're spending on these resources, you are trying to extract whatever you're spending on them. So that is efficient allocation of resources. So wastage is less and returns will be more. This way you will reduce the cost and increase the profits. Okay. So these are some of the favorable arguments. And one more important thing is any firm will not be able to survive without profits. 1 year, 2 years, or few years you can survive without profits, but for a long period of time to remain in the business, profit is compulsory. So only if profits are there, then you can think something else for the shareholders or other stakeholders or for the society and on. If profits are only not there, then you cannot do any other things also. That is the argument. Now, what is the unfavorable things that are there if you are aiming only for profits is one thing is profit ambiguity. Ambiguity means here they are saying that profit means what type of profits? Are you looking into long term profits, short term profits, profits before taxes, profits after taxes? You have many types of profits, right? So, what type of profit are you talking? Because every profit, if it's suppose EBIT, that is earnings before interest and tax, that also has some relevance in our finance, or profits before tax or profits after tax. So what profits are you talking about? That clarity is not there. That is one thing. So profits here means whether you should try to maximize the profits before tax, or whether you should try to maximize the profits after tax, or profits available only to the shareholders, like that. That is one argument. Then one more thing is in profit maximization, they are not considering time value of money. So profits means a firm has a project for 10 years. So the first year value of money is obviously higher when compared to the 10th year's value of money. So here profits mean they're simply counting the profits for all 10 years, ignoring the time value what you're getting in 10th year, ninth year. We all know as time passes, the value of money will come down or go up.
Come down.
Value of
Will
money,
come down.
yes. So value of money will come down. So today this year you are earning say 1 crore of profits. After 10 years you are earning 1 crore of profits. Obviously that 1 crore after 10 years is having lesser value as compared to today's 1 crore, right? So that factor is ignored in profit maximization. And obviously profits are uncertain, they are not guaranteed. So if you are only aiming for profits, then that is one of the they say that it's one of the foolish thing. And temporary profits are short term in nature. This year you have profits, so you are good. Next year you don't have any profit, so you will become bad, like that. So if you're depending only on profits, that benefit is only, it is uncertain and it is only for short term. And one more thing is, I'll tell you when we are discussing comparing this both, wealth maximization. So we call, in short, it is known as SWM, shareholders wealth maximization. It is not, in our finance terms, it is nothing but maximizing the net present value of course of action to shareholders. So I think you have not heard what is net present value. Do you people know what is present value, net present value? No?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Yeah. So what we do in finance is, just now I told, ignoring the time value of money, right? So whatever is the cash flows that we are expecting for some number of years, we will try to find out what is its real value as on today. So 1 crore after 10 years is equal to how much as on today? Obviously, it will be less than 1 crore only, right? So for a particular course of action means we will take it as some project. From a project, what are all the cash flows that you are expecting and what is its present value. First year you are getting 1 crore, second year 2 crores, third year 4 crores, fifth year some 7 crores. Like that, suppose if a project is for 10 years, all 10 years cash flows you will estimate, and what is the present value for each year. 10th year cash flow, what is the present value? Ninth year cash flow, what is the present value? Eighth year cash flow, what is the present value? Like that, we will try to find out the present value of all the cash flows. That will tell us what is the value for the value from a project, real value for the project, and that is the shareholders value considering the time value of money. Okay, so here net present value means all the present value cash flows minus whatever investment you have made. So it is net present value is like a profit from a project, but that profit is calculated considering the time value of money. So if it is higher, the wealth of the value for the shareholders will be higher. If the present net present value is higher, the shareholders' wealth is higher. So the company should try to take up those projects where the net present value of a course of action is higher. That is directly related to the wealth of the shareholders. That is the meaning of wealth maximization. Now, why we have to, why the finance should aim or the goal should be wealth maximization is because they are saying that wealth is the, here we are using the time value of money. So we are exactly trying to find out the time value, and that is the real picture. Considering the time value will show us the real picture of about a project, about the cash flows and wealth of the shareholders. And one more thing is, when we are saying wealth maximization, here they will be thinking about not only the shareholders but other stakeholders also. Stakeholders include or everybody who is associated with the company, like it is not stakeholders, all those who are related to the company.
Promoters of the company.
Yeah, promoters, employees, customers, everybody, suppliers, creditors, everybody is known as the shareholders, sorry, stakeholders. So here in profit maximization, what is happening is you are thinking only about the shareholders, but in when you are trying to increase the wealth of the shareholders and you are trying to increase the value of the firm, there then you have to think automatically your actions will be in such a way that it is beneficial to all the stakeholders. I'll give you one small example. Suppose if you want to maximize the profits, as I told, you can increase the revenues, that is price of the products or services, or you can reduce the cost and increase the profit margin, right? So to decrease the cost of production, there are many methods, and in one of the method is you can give less salaries or less payments to your employees. Okay, so what is happening in profit maximization? To increase your profit margin and to reduce the cost, you are paying less to your employees. Now that is making the employees unhappy, right? You're not thinking about the employees, you're thinking only about the shareholders. But what is happening in the community of those employees? They are unhappy. That will lead to some negativity about the company, right? So, but if you're thinking about wealth maximization, increasing the value of the firm, you will think that our company should get a good name. So you will, you want to uplift, you want to develop everybody who is associated, so that your goodwill in the market will increase. So you are paying properly to your employees, you're paying on time to your customers, to your suppliers. You are paying your bills, you are paying your taxes on time. This all will contribute to the goodwill of the firm. And people, if a company is having very high goodwill or good image in the markets, obviously that company will attract more shareholders or more investors. Even foreign investors, FIIs, and other NRI investors, everybody would like to invest in those companies that is having goodwill, very high goodwill, right? So when you want to increase the value of the firm, you will not think only about the shareholders, but you are thinking about other stakeholders also. So that is that is good for the society. That is the argument, right? And one more method of increasing the wealth and to know whether the value of the firm has increased or not is calculation of economic value added. It is in short known as EVA. It is nothing but any profits that are remaining after you have paid to all your what do you say shareholders and everything. Like you, I said, there is some cost of capital. Like to debtors you have to pay interest, to preference shares you have to pay dividend, to equity shares you have to pay dividend, right? So whatever cost you are incurring in making those payments, that is known as cost of capital. Whatever is a cost, that is a final cost the company is incurring. And any profits that are remaining after making the payments to your capital, that is additional profits that are remaining in your balance sheet. That part is known as economic value added. Net operating profits after tax minus weighted average cost of capital multiplied with capital. Okay, WACC is weighted average cost of capital. That is nothing but average of cost of capital. See, bonds or debentures are there, you pay some 10% interest on them. Preference shares you pay 12% dividend. Then this year equity shares you paid 20% dividend. So every source of capital is having a different rate that you are paying on them, right? So to find out what is the overall cost of capital, you have a method, and you find the average cost of capital considering all the sources. That is known as weighted average cost of capital. So weighted average cost of capital that is in a percentage form. That whatever is the cost of capital you are spending in paying to your capital, deducted from the operating profits after tax. So whatever is remaining after that is an additional profit that is remaining with you, and that is what is the value of the firm. That is one of the methods in knowing what is the value of the firm. And another method is not another method, as I told, wealth maximization means in maximizing the market capitalization, that is value of the shares in the market. Now, how you will know that? Market price multiplied with number of equity shares that are there in the balance sheet or that are outstanding. That will give you the amount of market capitalization. So if you are trying to increase the market price of the share, that will increase the market capitalization, and that will show how what is the value of the firm. And one more thing is, profits will lead, obviously, without profits, there won't be any value for the shares in the market. But what they say is you should not concentrate only on profit maximization. One more thing that is as I told, like in the desire to earn more and more profits, the companies will take up some unethical means also. They want to increase, if they keep only profit maximization as their aim, then they for to increase more and more profits, they will use unethical methods to reduce costs, to increase revenues. Like I told, they may not pay proper salaries to their employees, right? They may not pay on time to their suppliers, or they wantedly they don't pay taxes. Or sometimes the firms also, they use very low quality of raw materials that will compromise on the standards of production, and they are not upgrading their equipment, that is leading to more causing more pollution. Upgrading means they have to invest, they have to spend, and they don't want to spend because they want to increase profits. So that is causing environmental pollution. Or sometimes also producing those products that are not of much use to the society. We can say like this. Yes, Nitish. Nitish has raised some. Do you have any doubt? Okay. So, like that, if the company is having only profit maximization as a goal, then that may lead to some unethical practices by the company that is not good for the society. Yes, Natasha?
Ma'am, can you repeat how to calculate the economic value, please? The and
No, Pat.
yeah,
Net operating profits after tax.
minus.
Weighted, I mean, this is one element. Cost of capital, WACC multiplied with a capital. That is one element.
Okay, so it's net operating profit after tax minus. Okay, 1 minute. Thank you, ma'am.
Weighted average cost of capital multiplied with the capital.
Okay,
Deduct
ma'am.
that whatever amount you will get from the profits after tax.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Jay, tell me.
Yeah, ma'am. Like, see, what I want to add to your point is, profits always don't increase the shareholders, wealth, because sometimes, for example, if you see Zomato, they have been in the losses for last 3 years, and they have kept an IPO in July, and it's one of the biggest companies in India present right now, even though they don't
Right.
have so much of profits. It's
Right.
That's because they have the certainty of the future, right? Where this company is going to excel in the coming years. That is one
Right.
reason, right?
Right. But do you think, okay, for 3 years they don't have profits, and one more thing, uh, they assume that Zomato, whatever is the issue price, it was overpriced, and many of them were not hesitant to buy at the issue price, but later on it picked up. What is the scenario as on today?
I think it has increased. Let me check, ma'am. It's 144 per share.
Right. What was the issue price?
Ma'am, it was issued around 130, ma'am.
116.
Not 160, ma'am, 130.
130. So, I mean, we don't know how long a company can survive like this without profits, right? Of course, as you said, even if the firm is not having profits, because of the goodwill and the prospects that it is having, based on that also, it can fetch value for the shareholders.
Actually, it's the times right now, right? Because of the pandemic, people are ordering food to their houses and everything. Same thing happened to Adani Power. I think they have, their share price has increased in the recent years. That,
Right,
yeah, that's because of the times, and they also consider Zomato as a gold mine for the future.
right. Okay. So now, apart from these two, wealth maximization and profit maximization, we have another school of thought. We can say that they say that the firm should not only aim for wealth or welfare profits, but they should aim for welfare maximization. Welfare maximization means thinking about the society, because the firm is a part of a society, and they are utilizing the resources from the society, and they're also causing some harm to the society, like pollution and utilizing the water resources and all. um, the firm has a liability, or they have a responsibility something towards the society. So they have to think, or their goal should be welfare maximization. Welfare maximization means not the welfare of shareholders, but the welfare of every stakeholder, including the society, the government, and everything. So that is why we have the CSR activities being implemented as compulsory for the corporates. The final this thing is, it is not that the company has to stick only to profit, or only to wealth, or only to welfare. All these three are interconnected. If profits are not there, then maximizing the value of the firm would be difficult. And because the firm is in the society, it has a responsibility something towards the society, so also has to plan for welfare of the society. Okay, so all these three are interconnected. Just a second. So the finance function is related with other disciplines also. Can you tell me how it borrows some principles, theories from other disciplines, or how is it related to other disciplines, in the sense other subjects like accounts, finance and accounts, how it is related? Is there
Uh,
any relation?
okay, yeah, ma'am. This is Akshat again. Yeah, I'll let you know. What I derive from this thing is, as what we call commonly financial modeling, ma'am. It's most important thing for a company to know about whereabout they'll be in the future, and that's the data are much more uh, uh, derived from the accounts, basic accounts of profit and loss accounts and the balance sheet and all, and from that they'll be assuming what will be the status of the company in the future. So this is how it
Right.
is related to the whole thing, and this is what financial modeling is. And in the same way, investment analysis and these are basically things that they assume the company status in the future right now, and how will they allocate the sources, and how will they invest so that they get the maximum profit with the least resources over there. Yeah.
So they use the information from accounting. That is what you
Yes,
mean.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. From previous data of the company, so that
Right.
they can get a good assumption about the company. Yeah, ma'am.
Any other department the finance is related to? Yes.
In what field are you asking, ma'am? I did not get this.
It can be like a department or discipline, like marketing, HR, operations, IT.
It's absolutely connected to each and every department
Right.
till where I think it is.
It is a part of
Because
a big
uh,
picture. Finance itself is not a different or cannot be taken in isolation. Finance is a
yes,
part
ma'am.
of
Yes,
big
because
picture.
marketing needs finance. Yeah, marketing
Yes.
needs finance. HR also needs finance, because when they recruit people, they need to have the packages over
Yes.
there. In marketing, they need to have at what amount they can spend about for marketing and advertising the whole thing for promotions and all. So yeah, it's connected at each and every place. Operations,
Right.
for operations, also for day-to-day expenses of the company. Also, you need finance. Yeah, so it's
So
related to each and everything. It's a
primarily,
broader sensitive for the company rather than
right.
something really small department to be. Yeah.
So primarily, the finance derives information and is related or uses the concepts from accounting and economics. So we have macroeconomics and microeconomics. So suppose macroeconomics, I hope you all know the difference between macro and microeconomics. So macroeconomics, you have this like the GDP, national income, the interest rates in the markets, inflation rates, and so on. So whenever finance decisions have to be taken, time value of money has to be used, then these all inflation rates, interest rates, that all are needed. And coming to microeconomics, it is firm level, and obviously finance takes firm level concepts and firm level information to make its calculations and decisions. Then apart from accounting and economics, marketing is there, production is there, HR is there, then quantitative methods, there are some calculations and some models will be used, especially this econometric analysis. Some they have some methods of calculating, so those methods, those models will be used by the finance for what do you say, to derive at some values and make decisions accordingly. And obviously you have marketing, like you have a marketing plan or promotion plan, so you need a budget, and the finance department will take help from the marketing department. Production planning, cost of production, controlling the cost of production, all this is needed from production department. And HR, human resource planning, how many people to hire, skill level, pay structure, promotions, everything, right? Because even this wages and salaries are one of the major components of cost, right? So all these disciplines are interrelated to each other, and whatever decision it is making, borrowing the concepts, or taking the information and utilizing the principles, whatever the finance function is doing, that will lead, or ultimately the aim is to maximize the shareholders wealth. So this is just a small, I mean, you can understand like organization structure. Suppose it is, there is no hard and fast rule that the structure has to be in this way or in that way only. It depends from company to company and what type of company is it. It's a very big company. You have many branches, and you have many subsidiaries. So subsidiary wise, again, you have different structures. Suppose if it's an integrated single firm, then the organization structure is different, right? But ultimately there would be a finance director or chief financial officer, CFO. That is a main position for finance function. Under that CFO or financial director, you have basically the treasurer and controller, uh, or sometimes the same person will be doing as the treasurer and controller's job. uh, we have to look into the more operational level departments like auditing, credit management, cost control, inventory management, accounting. You have special department for, or an employee for retirement benefits calculation, or employees benefit calculations, and so on. So at operational level you have different departments again under the main heads. Or you can have um, like suppose if it's a very big firm, right? So you have internal auditor, and again, and for auditor you have different uh, sub divisions like external auditor, internal auditor, and then for each department wise you have internal auditors. Then operations, controller operations, then financial control for each division. suppose if there are many subsidiaries, for every subsidiary you have a financial controller. So it depends what type of organization structure they are following. Oh, I think these topics we have to take up tomorrow. Any doubt till here? Okay, I'll take attendance. What I'll do is I'll stop sharing this. Can you see the attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yashwant Reddy,
Present, ma'am.
Aditya Gautam,
Yes, ma'am.
Ahmed,
Yes, ma'am.
Akshit,
Present, ma'am.
Anirudh, Apurva,
Present, ma'am.
Ashwath,
Yes, ma'am.
Atreyi,
Present, ma'am.
Tarun, Maharath,
Present, ma'am.
Girish Reddy,
Yes, ma'am.
Vijay Kumar,
Yes, ma'am.
Neha Anthony,
Present, ma'am.
Dev Verma,
Present, ma'am.
Acha Gauhar Dev Verma, Gauhar, right?
Yes.
Sai Lahari,
Present, ma'am.
Ishan, Jatin,
Present, ma'am.
Satvik,
Present, ma'am.
Charanya,
Present, ma'am.
Siddhant Reddy,
Present, ma'am.